too many hot toddies. You want a flatter stomach or some vitamin C? Get up juice to find, they got whatever you need. And it don't even matter, cause whatever it is, if you ain't got a car, they pulling up to your crib. Cause all the virus talk got everybody tripping. So you better start boosting your immunity system. Juice to find is the best. Get it raw, fresh, and cold pressed. I said juice to find is the best. Get it raw, fresh, and cold pressed. Juice to find is the best. Get it raw, fresh, and cold pressed. I said juice to find is the best. Get it raw, fresh, and cold pressed.
It's the PLOT. If you get revenge, do you really get the victory? If you listen to me, does that really mean you're hearing me? Win the game of life, maybe one day you would cheer for me. First of all, I would like to thank each and every one of y'all for helping your boy up whenever I fall. I know sometimes it get hard, but you can't give up, cause if you do, you might not get to live. You gotta get away from what causes you harm. Live life to the death tatted on my right arm. That's necessary, live it like the last day. Though you could end up every getting it the fast way. Ski mask way, no time for busters. Only people around me are them true motherfuckers. Being from the bottom, you can learn a lot of things. Bust a window with a spark plug, jacket rings. Never knew I'd make it, always had a lot of hope. Moms and pops fighting mostly over fucking dope. A lot to swallow, so I'm trying not to fucking choke. My life's a drama, so it's nothing like a fucking joke.
That's funny. So, do you have another piece you'd like to share? I want to hear that body piece. I don't know if you.
Which one? Yeah, I got you. So this is a poem that I just had a lot of people picking at me about my body for like my whole life, and everybody always had something to say about the way my body looked and about what I should be doing. I mean, I literally had girls come up to me and say, "You need a better bra," or there'd be girls standing behind me and they're just like, "She has no ass, like her ass is so flat," and I'm just like, I'm standing right here. And it never really hurt me that much. It wasn't like I came home crying and it hurt my feelings, but it became something that I was conscious about because it wasn't something that I thought that mattered. And I hadn't really fully grasped, I hadn't really fully become aware of like bodies and that they could be different. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of like everybody's body was shaped vaguely the same kind of situation. But as people started to talk more and more about it and bring it up to me, and then of course social media and things like that, it started to become like this heightened awareness. And so love this piece. Thank you for asking me to read it, because you know it's my favorite.
It's my favorite.
God knew what he was doing. Not giving me an ass, knew that if I had, I'd be the perfect bad girl. Daddy gone, mother in shambles because mom is no longer all she has to be. Manipulative uncle come to save the day, and a brother who was determined to ignore me. And then he made me oldest daughter. He knew I wouldn't be able to handle society's most desirable body along with the less than desirable life. He knew I would live only by the desires of my body and for those who wanted her, or rather everyone's projections and expectations as to what I should do with her. I tried to be the bad girl. I was angry and raging, spewing venom at vulnerable hearts. I wanted to feel something. I wanted everyone to feel something, even if it was just to witness their skin turn goose flesh at my words, or the hitch in their voice as their heart skipped a beat. But God also gave me a heart that I never wore on my sleeve. I kept it in my back pocket and ignored the all too loud squelch my heart crushed under my heavy body. It wouldn't be a mercy to be ended, but I have never been this sad. My mother said that I was scaring her with my silence. I said nothing. And that silence said so much because the voice in my head was screaming, "Love me, love me, love me." And what a weight it is to know that bodies like yours could only be found at the underbelly of desire. A kink hidden in Adonis's golden happy trail, a wanting to be kept secret and buried deep. I am learning to love my body as she is, call my tummy divine, call my thighs the most devoted lovers, and claim the gold mine at their apex. I am a burning god. Shame does not live here.
Snap, snap, snap. Oh.
Yeah.
So, opening lines, because really, you know, in a typical, if we were talking about slam pieces, you know, we're talking about like a 3-minute poem, right?
Right.
So you really don't have very much time to capture your audience, right? So opening lines are so important to me. Your opening line in that poem is what sets it off for me. You know what I mean? God knew what he was doing, not giving me an ass. I love it. There's humor in it. You know what I mean? Where's the motivation for that line?
I was walking around in my house listening to poetry, and the line was like, honestly, it had been a thought that occurred to me a lot. Like, God knew what he was doing. If I had a fat ass, bro, I'd go over there. Like, listen, maybe like 1.5 inches off my forehead, bro. Listen, I'd take over the world. I'd be amazing.
That's great.
Absolutely amazing. So yeah, it just had been a thought that occurred to me a lot of times.
And then next, you got into some family dynamics in this piece.
Yes.
As a storyteller, do you find yourself referencing, you know, your own personal life, your own story, your family dynamics, all in there?
Because I found a lot of just like variety and just looking at my family and how they reacted to life and how they reacted to the world. And the thing that I really had to be careful of was not appropriating that and not trying to tell anybody else's story, and knowing that there were things that I wanted to write and I wanted to dig deeper into that I couldn't because it wasn't for me to talk about. It wasn't for me to discuss. So I kind of just looked at it from the most like base point. Dad in prison, mom not okay, uncle very manipulative, brother literally would not talk to me. And yeah.
Because what I've learned was I can learn a lot about myself by learning more about my family. So when I learned more about my mother and her upbringing, it connected some dots for me. It started to make sense, filled in some missing pieces of the puzzle, and it gave me a better view of her gave me a better view of myself through her. Right? So do you ever find yourself learning more about yourself through your family?
Plenty of times through their reactions to the world, and like it's almost like I get deja vu. Like, I've done this before. I felt that way before. I see you know what I'm saying? But also in my reactions to their behavior. What does that say about me that I felt this way? Talking to my mom a lot. I'm realizing just like a lot about her and how she is as a person, and the reason why I felt like in this whole process we've really just like grown up together, because my father went to prison and my mom is like the youngest sibling out of all of her siblings. She's like the baby girl, spoiled. She grew up in like the suburbs of like Brandon, Florida. So she was used to things being taken care of for her, and the same was true for her with her husband. So when my dad got arrested, it was really hard. That transition was really hard for her, because she went from her husband being like her main provider, and she was able to, you know, teach and do what she wanted to do, to I got to figure out mortgage, light bill, all of that all together. So it was like she was in shambles. She was not okay, and I was too young to see that. You know, because I was, you know, processing. I was 5 years old. How do you expect a 5-year-old to process that? And nobody did, but you know. So talking to her and realizing that there's still a girl there inside of her. It's one that loves to laugh and giggle and is curious and stuff like that. And looking at my little sister and the way we both kind of approach language the same way. Everybody's so impressed with the way that we talk and our vocabulary and things like that. And seeing that she just wants to be heard, and how I was the very same. And like, it's just very harmful for me to, even if she says things that aggravate me, for me to tell her to shut up. And just be like, listen, I don't think you meant to say, I need you to think about that, you know? And then looking at my brother, and we both have this kind of like quiet observance and this little bit of awkwardness about ourselves. So I'll be thinking about something and I say it out loud and he's like, bro, I thought I was the only one, you know? So yeah, I've written about that a lot, and just like, just like, where we kind of meet in the middle, sort of thing, what we have in common, and that's how I write into the poetry, and I'm able to tell their stories and give it justice without telling their story, you know, like just saying, just like it's almost like in the poetry I'm saying, I'm here for you, I see you, you know.
I can dig it. There's another line in there that talked about a desirable body. I don't know where.
Society's most desirable body.
What is that? What is
this hourglass figure? Everybody's obsessed with things being so even and clean cut, and bodies can be just like a jumble of so many different shapes and features, and in and of itself is beautiful. But because society has put such a stigma around it and is so busy trying to sexualize Black women, because Black women are the majority of women who have these hourglass figures without surgery. So it's like you want to sexualize Black women for their features, but then call them ugly when they don't fit into what you believe is classically beautiful. This dainty button nose and this long neck and rounder faces and just like, you know what I'm saying? So society's most desirable, acceptable body is the girl who's got a fat ass. It doesn't even matter if she's got like, you know, like it's just, society has made it so that there's only one way to be beautiful, and having fat ass is like the way that everybody was like, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like just like the way the way that I've interacted with the world is, and the way that different bodies interact with the world, you see one that is accepted and one that's like, that's femininity, and the other one that's like, it's not femininity. It's like, it's either that or you're not feminine at all. So.
Yeah, it's this is a very patriarchal society.
Yes.
And I am aware that I have some of that poison in me. I mean,
we all are.
I think that's the first step, is to admit, like, you know, that's where a lot of men is like, no, it's not, or no, I'm not. I'm a feminist. And I'm like, yeah, you could be, but you also could be have that patriarchal view still.
Right, we're all still growing. It's still, you know.
So yeah, I love, that's why I love the piece so much, is because you're talking about something so real, right? And body image is not a gender specific topic, you know. There is a lot of pressure put on women. Yes. But there is
a lot of pressure put on men as well. There's a lot of men.
I was watching TV, and you know, they got man Spanx now.
Yeah.
That you can wear undergarments that flatten out and make everything, you know, look nice. And it's like, oh my gosh, I did not know there were that many self-conscious men who were dealing with body image issues in that same regard, that they felt like they, you know, so.
But it says a lot about society, about how men and women approach these different things so differently. Men with their self-consciousness, a lot of times it can lead to violence against women. And
True.
But this is honestly though, but we honestly deal with the things this really the same. It's like when men meet women's rejections with violence, it's predatory. That's just how it is. But when women enact violence on other women because their bodies aren't what that looks like, it's like, oh, she's jealous, she's petty. It's like, no, you feel predatory and like you have ownership over these men when that's not the case at all. And you feel like because she's curvier than you or because she's quote unquote prettier than you, then she is a threat. So this is just minding her business. It's you over here gotta be coming out with the cat fights and stuff like that. You know?
And I love that you addressed that before you started the poem. You were like, I would get whispers from other women, like, about my body. And as a man, that's not new to me.
Right.
But I automatically assume that it's some man said something to you that made you feel this way. You were like, nah, it was them two girls right there behind me. I heard what y'all said.
My family.
Yeah. So the last line that I want to highlight was, heart crushed under my heavy body.
Yeah.
What?
So when I say I tried to be the bad girl, I tried to be like the girl who was like too cool for school. I'm putting my emotions on the back burner, so my heart is it's not on my sleeve. I'm not showing everybody how I feel. It's in my back pocket. And I ignore my own heartbreak in exchange for anger and spewing venom at vulnerable hearts, as I said, and basically projecting my own insecurities on other people. I won't say that I was like some raging bully, but when I had some mean shit to say, best believe I was gonna say it. I was gonna say what I had to say, and I'm not like proud of it, but it was what I felt like I needed to protect myself. It was like my armor. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was gonna fuck with me if I was gonna get violent. So it was my way of protecting myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what would you leave? I mean, one of the questions that we ask sometimes during the classroom presentations is, what would you say to your younger self? You know, like if you had that time machine and you could go back, but you could only go back for a few minutes, what are you going back to tell your younger self? And at what time are you going back to?
Oh, wow. I would just, so the first time I wrote like a really, like I felt it was a good poem was when I was like home alone and my mom was gone and my siblings were gone. I'm not sure where everybody else went, whatever. And I was like home alone and I was feeling this like I said before, like this full-bodied anxiety and this like heaviness in my chest, and I was just like really, really depressed, and I was really getting to a point where I was just like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I wrote about it, and I was like, you know what, this is it, I'm done, I'm gone, and I was about to kill myself. And I would go back to that moment while I typed the suicide note on my phone, and so I'm sitting here about to write it out, tears covering the page, my face is like streaked, I'm losing it, writing this down, like I'm really about to end it, I'm done. And I would and at that moment, I would just kind of sit across from myself and hold her hands and be like, you'll be rid of him one day. And then that would be it. Because my biggest issue was my abuser. We won't name him. We won't say anything about, relationships. But I am grateful for him in that I genuinely believe that some of the things he taught me and the way that he taught me and the way that he said things was because he believed he was right. He was like, this is how I survived. And that was how he was trying to teach us. I haven't forgiven him fully all the way because I haven't been away from him for very long. But I wrote a poem. I'm gonna just read this short line from a piece that I wrote. And I was like, hold on, I just passed it. I said, I was more scared than relieved in his presence, in his silence, trembling as I waited for all the nasty things he would say when he was ready. I love him enough to know that what was done to him when he was a boy is unacceptable. I know him enough to know that he is proud of the kind of man it made of him. So I know that the abuses that he suffered was just like regular life for him. And so he didn't have any language to name that and call it abuse. So his whole life he was like, that was just how it was. That's how you would talk to children. You're using embarrassment to teach them lessons when really that's not. That should ever be the case. So I was so afraid of my own body around him, afraid of how it would react, afraid of how it would move. I couldn't even step. I couldn't even just like be up and just be stomping around the house because he would just get angry about that. I was literally having to be lighter on my feet and be so cautious around him. So to let myself know, to just say that simple sentence, you'll be free of him one day, I know I would understand because I know exactly who I was talking about. Because there wasn't anybody else in my life who was as close to me as he was, but there was nobody else I felt so conflicted about than I felt about him, because he was there to listen and be there, and he was the one to say okay to all the crazy bad things and stuff that you were doing. But he was just, it was almost like he was there to hold me accountable, but scold me when it did him good. You know what I'm saying? And I'm realizing with people like that, it was more about his own ego than it was really about helping me to grow.
And you only get there through growth and maturity. That's something that we can't teach you. We always say to our young people that things like that will pass. But when you're in it, it's hard to see. It's like, man, I'm in this storm right now, and all I see is clouds and lightning. And what are you talking about?
Right, like it's
rainbows.
Hard as hell.
It's how am I supposed to get through this? And there is hope.
Yes.
Right. So I'm glad you touched on that, because there are other young people who are gonna watch this who will be like, man, I'm going through that, something like that. And I need that word. I need to know that this will pass, that you will be done, that's why we do this. That's why we do this. That's why I tell you, man, you're on your way. Your next step is, being that mentor to someone else. I mean, I know you've done that with your siblings.
Yeah,
but that's different because that's your blood. You know what I mean? To untake something like that with somebody you don't know is a totally different thing. But it builds your compassion for people. And I think you're getting there. You're understanding that now. I do want to thank you. You shared your soul, baby, and that's what it's about. Like, trying to touch others and give them some hope and instill the faith into them, and help them learn how to become more resilient you know, and bounce back from some of this stuff that they're dealing with, you know. Give me your favorite quote or...
My favorite quote. Oh, I was at this convention recently in North Carolina, and the man said, "Do not dig up in doubt what you planted in faith." And I was like, wow.
Do not dig up in doubt
what you planted in faith. And that's been like my whole journey. I was like, you know what, babe? We can do this poetry thing. We're gonna do this. And everywhere I went, I had to defend myself and be like, that's dope. Love what you're doing, but I'm a writer. Oh man, that's amazing. And this is a lot of fun for me. I enjoy this, but I'm a writer. You know, I had to really like fight other people because Miami is such a visual place and there's visual art everywhere. But who writes about it? Who tells other people about it? Who's recording this? Who's letting you know this? What is this art based off of? You know?
Us, the griots.
Right.
Yes, we are the
writers.
storytellers.
Exactly.
We are the historians.
So I had to like really stop doubting myself as a writer and be like, babe, you've been doing this for a minute now. There's still a ways to go, but you here now. You're in this. Don't doubt yourself. You're not less than anybody just because this line didn't fit right or you didn't perform the poem the way that you wanted to perform it. You got it out there, and nobody can say you didn't try.